before the sails ever caught wind, before they would ever touch water, there were hands. Calloused, blistered, bleeding, deep in the forest and by the shorelines, ancient shipbuilders toiled, day after day, month after month, not for glory, but for survival. No blueprints, no machines, just memory, muscle, and fire. Every beam was carved by instinct, every rib bent by steam. And if they made a mistake, men would die at sea. Tonight, we go back to that world. The world of pitch, rope, and rising masts, where ships were born not in silence, but in the deafening song of axes and hammers. This is the grueling life of ancient shipbuilders, and it's time to remember the men who built the voyage. The forest's gift. Before a single plank touches the water, before nails pierce wood and ropes take the wind, the life of an ancient ship begins in silence. Long before the shipyards bustle, before the hammer and the caulking iron find their place, there is the forest. This is where the story starts. At dawn, under a pale sky, you follow the master's shipwright into the woodland. Mist still clings to the branches. Dew glistens like pearls on ferns. The woods are quiet. Birdsong drifts through the canopy. You stand among ancient giants, giants older than any hut, older than any boat. This is timber older than your village, and it holds stories in its rings. The master points to a massive oak. He listens to the soil, the bark, the wind whispering through leaves. Without words, he identifies the tree that will be the keel, the backbone of a ship that may travel miles across seas and storms. He traces a line on the bark with charcoal. Apprentices mark others, marks that say, "This tree alone shall serve as keel," or "This log will become the first plank." There is no haste. Selecting timber is a ritual. Each tree is chosen with care. For size, yes. For straightness, yes. But also for spirit. The shipwright speaks of the tree's life. How its roots found water in dry summers. How its branches reached sunlight even as it shared the canopy. How its heartwood is wide and dark. A ship is not only built with wood, but with respect for the tree's journey. The wood carries its history now into a new purpose. When the winter is too harsh, the crew wearing coarse woolen tunics walks among pines. In summer, they move with water buckets to clear the forest floor, less to maintain the land and honor it. Women bring offerings, grain, flowers, oil to the felled trees. It sounds superstitious, but here, respect is survival. If timber feels abused, it will twist, warp, leak. The ship, born from harsh felling, will suffer harsh voyages. When the day of cutting comes, the forest holds its breath. The work begins before the sun fully rises. Two men lift a heavy block and tackle assembly. A wedge is driven into the tree's base. The echoes, soft at first, grow until the wedge splits the trunk. Sap oozes from the wound. The men make the sign of the cross, thanking the tree for its sacrifice. Then the axes come up. The sound is rhythmic, hollow, ching, ching, ching. The tree yields. Several hours later, it groans and falls, soul shaking, leaves rustling as it bows to the earth. You stand at a distance, heart pounding, breathing the forest sorrow. The master places his hand on the rough bark. This is not just timber now. This is memory. The tree's spirit enters the ship. The trunk is stripped of branches, delimbed, then dragged by oxen or floated down a narrow stream if one is nearby. Draft horses are yoked. Ropes are tied. Men chant softly, guiding each step. It's dangerous work. An errant branch could break a leg. A log could crush a foot. Still, not one man laughs. The wood must reach the yard intact. As spring turns to summer, more trees are felled. Pine for masts, ash for oars, elm for frames. Each species has a role. Pine because it's straight, plentiful, clear of knots. Ash because it bends without breaking. Elm because its grain resists splitting. Even smaller trees have purpose. Cedar for planking aboard some ships, larch for finishing timbers. Nothing is wasted. Chips feed animals. Bark blankets, apprentice gardens. Sawdust lies in paths to dampen mud. In the camp forest, meals are simple. Rye bread, salted fish, or bits of salted pork, hard cheese. Water from the stream. You sit on stumps, eating quietly. Every meal is a thank you to the forest, to the tree. The master speaks. This forest fed us. You nod. Sometimes you bow your head. At midday, you test it with sample. A square of oak, plain, smooth enough you can draw your finger along without catching. It's thick and waxy with resin. You tap it with a small hammer. A clear ring means strong heartwood. A dull thud means flaws. You reject the flawed. A boat will not forgive a weak keel. 3 trees are chosen to become the keel. 1 loyal Sashiko oak, 1 supple pine, 1 ash runner. They lie side by side in the yard. The keel tree, once a giant among giants, is now a pale log awaiting transformation. All day long, you hear the echo of the forest among the shipyard. Timber stacked in rows. Beams propped against poles. Each log is marked with a name or symbol. The shipwrights mark the week number, the intended ship. It transforms a crowd of felled giants into pieces of a plan. The shipwright stands at the edge of the yard at dusk. He looks at the timber like a sculptor before his marble, only instead of chisel and hammer, they will use axes and saws, adzes and planes. But the process is similar. The raw material holds a form within. You just have to reveal it. When evening falls, lanterns are lit. A single lamp hangs over the logs, glowing orange. You walk by alone, touch the grain as if testing breath. The wood is sleeping now, but you can sense it will wake. The forest gift carries the future inside. You sleep that night in a longhouse made from earlier trees. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache. Your dreams drift among oaks, pine boughs, rivers. You dream of the day when the keel takes shape, when nails bind to frames, when the hull floats, and then when water meets wood and the vessel breaches surface with a splash you will hear in your bones. But tonight, the forest sleeps. The trains of logs rest. And in that quiet, you meditate on what it takes to build a ship. Not only skill, not just sweat, but humility, patience, respect, memory. You will build more than a vessel. You will build continuity, a voice through time, a connection from forest to sea, from tree to voyage, from wood to wonder. The sun rises over the shipyard like a slow promise. Pale in gold, it creeps across the timber piles stacked like sleeping beasts, each log waiting its turn. The morning chill clings to the ground, but the air will soon be thick with sweat and dust. Before the birds finish their song, the first blow lands. Thunk. It's the sound of an axe biting wood. A dull, percussive sound that resonates in the chest more than the ear. The axe is long-handled, iron-forged, kept sharp by constant care. You know its weight by heart now. It swings as an extension of your arm, though your arm burns from yesterday's work. And the day before that, and the week before that, you're not alone. The shipyard stirs with life. Dozens of men, maybe more, form a living rhythm. Some haul timber from ox-drawn carts. Others brace logs on trestles or racks, preparing them for shaping. Everyone has a task. Everyone has a place in the rhythm. The ship will rise from this orchestrated labor, one swing, one shave, one heave at a time. The master shipwright stands at the edge of the yard, arms folded across his chest. His gaze cuts through the haze like a blade. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, people listen. His knowledge is a map written in splinters and scars. He knows which log will twist under tension and which grain will bear the sea's wrath. He sees the shape of the ship before the keel touches soil. You listen to him. Everyone does. There's no blueprints, no parchment sketches, just knowledge, passed from hand to hand, mouth to ear, and embedded into muscle memory. You were a boy when you started fetching tools and sanding pegs. Now your palms are thick with callus, your forearms corded with strength you didn't ask for. Your back complains, but your pride doesn't. This is what men do here. They build things that live on water. You help position the keel timber, the backbone of the vessel. It's heavier than 5 men and harder to move than stubborn cattle. Ropes creak, sweat drips, voices shout. But eventually, it lays into place, cradled by supports and steady by wedges. There's a moment of silence, not by plan, but out of shared reverence. This is where it begins. With every axe stroke, the wood tells you something. If it's too dry, it splinters. Too wet, it clings and sticks. The good pieces sing when cut, a deep, clean note, like the bow of a fiddle drawn across the grain. But not all wood is good. Warped planks are rejected with a frown and a grunt. Those mistakes don't go on ships. They go in fires. You work in teams. One man holds, the other cuts. Sometimes you trade places. Trust is essential. A misplaced strike could split more than wood. Sometimes when the light slants just right and the rhythm clicks into place, it feels like music, not the kind you dance to, the kind that moves in your bones and leaves blisters behind. There's noise, constant living noise. Mallets thudding against chisels. The rhythmic scrape of adze carving curves into planks. The sharp cry of saws biting through beams. Hammers tapping pegs into holes with a craftsman's precision. Occasionally, a shout, a warning, or a curse. And underneath it all, the groan of the shipyard's heart as it takes in wood and gives back shape. The tools are simple but deadly in skilled hands. You've used a broad axe to square logs, the draw knife to smooth the hull skin, the auger to drill peg holes. There's a plane that once belonged to your grandfather. It still shaves like a whisper. No machines, no gears, just man and wood and sweat. At midday, you pause to eat coarse bread, a slice of cheese if you're lucky, maybe an onion. You sit on timber piles and talk, or don't. Some men chew in silence, staring at the growing hull as if it might speak to them. Others joke or curse the blisters growing beneath their wrappings. You soak your shirt in sweat and wipe your brow with sawdust-covered fingers. Then, back to work. The frame begins to take shape, rib by rib, each one curved just right, boiled or steamed to bend without breaking. You help lift one into place, slotting it into the keel's notches, pegging it firmly, bracing it with blocks. It stands like a skeleton reaching for the sky. And then another, and another. You don't think of the sea. Not yet. That comes later. For now, it's about the fitting. The joints must hold, even under pressure, even under war. You drive a dowel through plank and beam, hammering until your arms scream. You know which pegs swell when wet, sealing gaps with the sea's own hand. You smear pitch in seams and tap wedges into awkward spaces. It's not pretty, but it's strong. Evenings come slowly. The sun turns red and lazy, dripping its light across the shavings and scraps. You keep working until the master calls it. Then you step back. The hull grows like a beast being born, slow and hungry. You're proud of it. Even before it sails, you love it like a child. Sometimes you dream of it. In your sleep, you hear the axes again. You feel the handle against your palm, the jolt in your shoulder. You dream of trees falling and wood rising, of ships breaking through water, carrying cargo or warriors or both. You don't always dream of the sea, but always of the building. You wake sore, every muscle arguing with the morning, but you return to the yard anyway, because the sound of axes calls you, because the ship is not finished, because your work lives longer than you, and because deep down, the hammering silence of doing nothing scares you more than the blister hands of building something real. Tomorrow, you'll raise the next rib. After that, the decking, the shaping, the ceiling. Still so much left to do. But for now, you rest your tools. Wipe your brow. Stretch your aching back. The sound of axes fades with the sun. But tomorrow it returns. Before the first nail is driven or the first plank steamed into place, there's a silence that stretches over the shipyard like a held breath. It is not the stillness of inaction, but the pause before an idea takes shape, not on paper, but in the mind of master shipwright. There are no blueprints, no scrolls filled with measurements, no charcoal sketches pinned to a wall. The only plan exists in the minds of men, carried from generation to generation like a secret. You cannot touch it, but it guides every blow of the axe, every carving of the chisel, every curve of the keel. It is memory, tradition, and the weight of stories that are older than your village and the hills beyond. The master shipwright walks slowly across the yard, his boots crunching over curls of wood and broken bark. His hands are behind his back, and his eyes, clouded by age, yet sharp as a bird's, scan the timber laid out in rows. He stops before a length of oak and taps it with his knuckle. The sound tells him everything. Hollow? No. Good. Solid? Maybe straight grain or warped. His fingers trace the lines like a monk reading scripture. He mutters, mostly to himself, but loud enough for you to hear if you're close. This will bend well. Or, not this one, too brittle. Sometimes he hums, a strange tune with no words, as though coaxing the shape of the ship from inside his memory. You follow him like the others do. You are an apprentice, not by contract, but by tradition. You are chosen, not hired, not paid in coin, but in knowledge that cannot be bought. You carry his tools, sometimes his lunch, and always your questions, though you ask them rarely. The answers come not in words, but in gestures, glances, and repetition. You learn by watching. You learn by doing. The ship begins not on a drawing board, but in the master's mind. He sees the keel before it is laid. He knows how long, how deep, how wide. He imagines the prow slicing through waves, not from numbers, but from the way wind bends a tree or the way a bird floats above a sea. He learned from his father, who learned from his father, who built ships before names were carved into stones. He walks the perimeter of the build site, marking the shape with stakes and cords. It seems imprecise to the outsider, a few bits of twine tied to sticks. But you know better. This is how ships have always been built here. The angles are judged by sun and shadow. The curves are modeled in the mind, refined by years of watching the sea eat lesser boats. Around you, the other workers gather. They carry their tools and, more importantly, their patience. No one rushes the planning. A rush ship is a dead ship. You've heard the stories of boats that buckled in storm because a beam was set too shallow, or that turned sluggish because a hull wasn't narrow enough. Those stories are warnings, told like prayers. One of the older builders kneels near the master, laying out timbers for the keel. He arranges them not by measurement, but by feel. He knows the sound of good oak, the weight of yew. He sniffs the wood and taps it with the flat of his blade. It's not science. It's closer to instinct, or perhaps reverence. In the corner of the yard, an apprentice holds up a curved piece of wood. Too curved for the keel, but maybe perfect for a rib. He shows it to the master, who nods slowly, then points to a spot on the skeleton frame. No words, just a finger. That piece of wood will become part of the ship's belly, where the waves strike hardest. As the day warms, the ground becomes crowded with timber, tools, and people. But in the midst of it all, there is a sense of calm. Everyone trusts the process. No one needs to see a drawing to know what comes next. The master walks a frame again and again, adjusting a wedge here, shifting a brace there. He runs his fingers along the edge of a beam and closes his eyes. You don't ask what he sees. You already know. He sees the sea. He sees storms and calm water. He sees the ship weeks from now, full of goods or warriors or fishermen. He sees it cutting across the waves, rising and falling like a lung. He sees it surviving. Sometimes he tells stories, not of measurements or blueprints, but of past ships. The Gray Swan, he once said, was built too narrow, nearly tipped in harbor. Or, the Morning Star had ribs so strong, they pulled bodies from a wreck 2 winters later, and they were still dry. These are the stories that shape the ship more than any ruler. You've begun to memorize the steps. First the keel, then the stem and stern posts, then the ribs, then the planking. But it's not just the order, it's the feeling, the way the wood changes with the air, the way the joinery shifts when the sun bakes it, the sounds it makes when pegged too hard or bent too fast. By midday, the framework is starting to form, not yet a ship, but the ghost of one. The apprentices mark reference points with charcoal on the timber. The master checks them with nothing more than his eye and his hand. Occasionally, he corrects them. Sometimes he doesn't. When he nods, it feels like praise. You sit on a beam for a short break, chewing on salted bread. Around you, the yard buzzes with quiet industry. The master sits alone for a moment, sharpening his blade. You watch his hands. Every movement has purpose. He doesn't waste motion. He doesn't explain himself. But if you watch closely enough, you start to understand. Planning without blueprints requires more than memory. It demands faith, not the blind kind, but the kind rooted in long practice. You trust the master. You trust the process. And Slowly, you begin to trust yourself. You trace your fingers along a rib you helped shape. It feels right, not because you measured it, but because it fits. The curve, the grain, the balance. You think of the ship as a living thing. It begins in the forest, grows in the yard, and lives on the water. And you are one of the many hands shaping it. The sun dips lower. Shadows lengthen. The frame rises, piece by piece, into something real. The master stands at the edge of the work and exhales through his nose. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. The ship is taking shape, not from drawings, but from everything that came before. And you are becoming a shipbuilder, not from words, but from watching, waiting, and working. Tomorrow, the planks will begin, and with them, the next chapter of story passed down in wood, wind, and silence. Before there is a ship, there is the keel, just one piece of timber, long and sturdy, yet it carries the entire future of the vessel in its grain. The keel is the spine, the line around which everything else must curve, bend, and follow. It is not the largest piece of the ship, but it is the most sacred. The morning is cool, and dew still clings to the blades of grass in the shipyard. The workers gather in a quiet semicircle, eyes resting on the massive timber laid out across a cradle of logs. It took weeks to select this piece. It had to be straight, free of knots, strong but flexible. A lesser tree would snap under pressure, or worse, warp at sea. This oak has been chosen like a name from a sacred text. You wipe your hands on your tunic and kneel beside it. You reach out and run your palm along the grain, feeling the lines etched by time. You've touched it before, shaped it, carved it, even cursed it, but this is different. This is not a beam or a plank. This is the keel, the heart line, the dream made physical. The master shipwright steps forward. He doesn't speak yet. He stands over the timber, one hand resting gently on its surface. His eyes are closed. Whether he's praying or remembering, no one can say. Maybe both. His silence is not a command, but it holds a yard like a spell. Then slowly he opens his eyes and nods. The men move. Rope is tied, braces are lifted, and the keel is gently, almost reverently, rolled into position. Everyone watches every inch. It must lie perfectly true. No lean, no tilt. It must be level to the sky, square to the earth, balanced in its rest. If it is wrong, the ship will never sail straight. If it is crooked, the sea will twist it apart. You crouch beside one end and adjust a wedge of stone beneath it. Another worker taps the opposite side with a mallet, nudging it into place. You do not speak. No one does. All you hear is the crunch of gravel, the soft creak of timber, the occasional bird calling above. Then, with a final nudge, it rests, perfectly aligned, balanced, waiting. The master shipwright breathes deeply and kneels beside the timber. He presses one hand to the wood and mutters a few words under his breath. You don't catch them all, but you hear the ones that matter. Safe, strong, far. It is a kind of blessing, not the kind offered by priests, but the kind passed down through callous hands and long winters. Some builders spit on the keel for luck. Some press coins beneath it. Some leave a scrap of bark or a carving from the forest it came from. Every shipyard has its own ritual, but all of them treat the keel like the soul of the vessel. You touch it yourself, silently. You feel the warmth of the sun beginning to rise through the wood. And you think, this timber will leave the shore. It will cross seas. It may carry kings or crates of dried fish. It may see battle or simply rot in a forgotten dock. But it will move. It will live. And part of you will go with it. That thought lingers as the rest of the crew begins marking the positions for the stem and stern posts. These vertical timbers will rise from either end of the keel, giving the ship its length and curve. But today, it's still only the spine. You take measurements by rope, not by number, but by comparison. You stretch the cord from one end to the other and divide it with knots and charcoal. There's no ruler, only ratios, only what the eye remembers and the hands confirm. The keel must not just be strong, it must be true. You test its straightness with a taut line, anchor at both ends and pull tight across the top. You bend low and squint along it, searching for sag or bow. The line tells no lies. A tiny rise and you shim it. A dip and you lift the timber again. Every correction matters. This is not wood, not anymore. This is destiny measured in inches. The master shipwright walks its length again, tapping his staff softly with each step. He doesn't say much, but when he does, it's final. More under the stern. Or that shim's too soft. You obey without question. His eyes have seen more ships built and broken than you can count. As the sun climbs higher, the work becomes steady. You drill shallow pilot holes along the keel's length to receive the ribs later. Each mark is placed with care. Not too close, not too far. A wrong rib means a weak hull, and in a storm, weakness is death. Lunch comes and goes in silence. No one eats near the keel. It feels wrong, like eating beside a grave or shrine. You sit a little distance away, chewing slowly, glancing back at it every so often. It feels alive now, like it's waiting for its skin and bones, like it's listening. After the break, you help carve the scarfs, the angled joints where the keel pieces join. They must fit so perfectly that water cannot find its way in. You rub charcoal across the edge, press the pieces together, and check for black marks where the fit fails. Then you shave. Check. Shave. Check. Again and again until the seam is flawless. The rest of the day passes in measured labor. Pegs are cut and driven. Braces are nailed to hold the keel in place. You bend low to measure angles with a wooden square, checking again and again that everything is true. The keel must be both patient and proud. It must wait while the rest is built around it, but it must lead every curve and contour. By sunset, the shipyard is quiet again. The keel rests alone, held steady by braces and stones. Around it, the ground is littered with shavings and dust, but nothing moves. It lies there like a sleeping beast, long and low and waiting. You linger before leaving, brushing your hand across its edge once more. You think about what it will carry, not just cargo or crew, but hope, exploration, trade, war, escape. The reasons are endless. The ship will leave, and you may never see it again, but it will remember you. The hands that laid its spine, the breath that whispered over its grain, the dream you folded into its foundation. Tomorrow, the ribs will rise. The keel will grow a body. The skeleton will stretch out and take shape. But tonight, it is enough to know that the first step has been taken. The most important line has been drawn. The journey has begun, even if the sails are still years away. And though no one will carve your name into the wood, you'll know. Long after you're gone, long after this yard is dust and the sea has swallowed 1,000 ships, this one will have your touch in its spine. The keel holds more than timber. It holds you. The keel rests like a spine, steady and silent. But today, the ship begins to grow bones. At first light, you gather near the cauldrons, where water already begins to steam. The fire underneath crackles low, stoked since before dawn. The air smells of wet oak and smoke. Your breath rises in mist, but it won't be long before the heat makes you forget the chill. The frames, the ship's ribs, are next, bent wood, curved to shape, rising from the keel to form the skeleton of what will float one day. Each rib is a pair of timbers, joined and fastened on either side of the keel. When they are all in place, the ship will finally begin to resemble a hull, not just a dream of one. But first, they must be shaped, and shaping is no small task. You step up to the steaming bench, where lengths of oak already lie half submerged in hot water. The longer they soak, the more willing they become. Cold oak is stubborn. It cracks, splits, fights back. But softened by boiling heat and steam, it can be bent, if not without resistance, then at least without breaking. The men work in teams. One lifts the timber from the cauldron with iron tongs, water dripping and hissing where it touches the ground. Another steadies it on the frame, then begins a bending. Slow, deliberate, a push followed by a pause. No sudden force, only persuasion. You press your shoulder against the beam, pushing as another worker tightens the iron clamp. Slowly, the rib yields. You can feel it shifting, not easily, but reluctantly, like a stiff joint settling into motion. You grunt under the strain. Your shirt clings to your back. The heat of the steam surrounds you like fog. Your hands burn. You keep going. The clamps hold it tight. It will stay like this for hours, maybe a whole day, until the wood memorizes its new shape. Some ribs break in the process. Too dry, too brittle, too proud. When they do, there's nothing to be done but start over. Wood doesn't negotiate. Other ribs bend beautifully. Their curves match the arc of the ship in the master's eye. Smooth, wide at the belly, tighter at the ends. You take pride in those. You run your hand along them and feel something living underneath, as though the ship is beginning to breathe. But the work is constant. One rib follows another. As one soaks, another is bent. As one is clamped, another is tested for flaws. You learn to see faults not just with your eyes, but with your ears and your hands. A good beam sings under pressure. A bad one creaks. And a failing one snaps, loud and fast, the sound like bones breaking. The fire beneath the cauldron demands feeding, and you take turns stoking it. The heat blasts your face, and your arms redden as you shovel in dry wood. Sweat trickles down your spine. It collects in the bend of your elbows. By noon, you're soaked, not with rain or river, but with labor. Still, no one stops. Not really. You eat with your fingers, sitting on the edge of the shipyard with your back to the fire and your eyes on the clamps. You chew slowly. You drink water from a shared jug. Then you rise again, because there's another rib waiting. Each rib must be perfectly placed. Too far apart, and the hull will be weak. Too close, and you waste timber. You use a template, not a drawing, but a curved piece of wood cut by the master, shaped by years of knowledge. You press each rib against it, adjusting by eye, trusting hands more than numbers. Once a rib is shaped and cooled, it is lifted into place beside the keel. You and another apprentice carry one together, arms hooked beneath it, stepping carefully around the other workers. It's heavy, still damp, still steaming faintly. As you lower it into the notch carved into the keel, you feel the wood settle, not like an object being placed, but like a part returning to a body. You brace it. The master shipwright approaches and inspects the curve, his eyes squinting, his hands hovering just above the timber. He doesn't touch it, not yet. He walks its length, then nods once. That's all you need. Iron nails follow, long, hand-forged spikes driven through it into wood. Each strike echoes. You swing the hammer over your head and bring it down with your full strength. Once, twice, again. The sound is dull, deep. The rib sinks tighter with each blow. You can feel it pulsing in your arm. By the end of the day, 5 ribs stand, rising like the beginnings of a rib cage. Already, the shape of the ship begins to show. A hollow cradle, a promise. You stand back and look at them, the way they curve up from the keel, slightly forward, like arms reaching for the sea. The skeleton is growing, slowly, painfully, but unmistakably. You remember the first rib you bent. It cracked. The wood was old. No one blamed you, but you felt the failure in your bones. Now, as you see 5 standing proud and straight, something lifts in your chest. Not joy exactly, you're too tired for that, but satisfaction, quiet, solid, like the ribs themselves. The master shipwright walks among them again before dusk. He taps each one with a mallet, listening for hollow spots, for loose joints. He finds none. He nods and rests a hand on the keel. His voice is low. She breathes now. You don't know if he means the ship or the forest it came from. Maybe both. The wind picks up a little, stirring the sweat on your skin and sending curls of steam away from the cauldrons. The fire still glows. The last rib of the day cools in its clamp. You wash your hands in a bucket of cold water, watching the dirt and heat swirl away. Your fingertips are swollen. Your arms tremble slightly, but your back is straight. You look one last time at the rising ribs. In the morning, more will come. The skeleton will grow until it becomes a body, until it can carry skin, sails, breath. But for now, these first ribs are enough. They stand against the evening sky like sentinels, guardians of a dream not yet born. And you, tired and sore, walk away with the feeling that something real has begun, something ancient, something that will last longer than you, longer than any of you. You have bent wood to will. You have shaped it with heat and muscle and time. You have given the ship its first bones. And though no one will know your name when it sails, it will carry your strength in every curve. You wake before the sun again. The yard is still dim, but the smell hits you before anything else. Tar, sharp and acrid, already boiling in iron cauldrons. Smoke curls into the sky, as if warning the gods what kind of day this will be. The planking begins. Planks of the skin of the ship, long, broad slices of timber that must curve with a body like armor. If the ribs were bones, these are sinew and flesh. Everything must fit snug, flush, tight enough to keep water out and the sea at bay. The first task is to carry the planks, heavy, awkward, stubborn things. Each one has been soaked, steamed, and bent to a general shape, but now they must be coaxed into place. You and two others lift the first length together. It's longer than you are tall and twice as thick. You brace your shoulder beneath it, and together you heave it toward the waiting hull. The master shipwright stands nearby. He doesn't say much, he never does, but you know he's watching. Every move you make will be judged, not just by how well it fits, but by how clean the seam is, by how little it resists the hammer, by how much pride you show in doing it right. Fitting planks is as much listening as labor. You lift the board into position, brace it with clamps, and begin the slow hammering process. Iron nails, hand-forged spiral-tipped, are driven through pre-drill holes. Each strike must echo with the correct tone. A dull thud? Too soft. A ringing note? Good. A sharp crack? Something splitting. The first few planks go on slow. Everything must be tested, adjusted. Gaps are trouble. Gaps are death. Water loves gaps. Water waits for them. You take a length of oakum, tarred hemp fibers, and pack it into the seams. You use a caulking iron, a small chisel-like tool, to jam it tight, then follow with a coat of boiling pitch. The pitch is black as night and thick as molasses. It bubbles ominously in the cauldron, stirred constantly to prevent burning. One of the older apprentices handles the ladle. He pours it onto your seam with precision, and you take the brush, more like a mop, and smear it evenly across the joint. The smell is everywhere. Burnt pine, molten resin, sweat. It gets in your throat. It stings your eyes. You wear a rag over your mouth, but it barely helps. You learn to breathe shallow. The work is monotonous. Plank after plank, hammer after hammer, but there's a rhythm to it. You find yourself falling into a trance. Strike, tap, seal, move. The ship grows around you like a living thing, each board a rib and a creature taking shape. You glance up once and see the sun directly overhead. The yard is hot. Tar smears your forearms. Your tunic clings to your back. You break for water, sharing a dipper with another boy. His hands are black like yours. His face is tight with fatigue. You don't speak. Words waste breath. The master shipwright walks by, checking your last seam. He runs a callous finger along the edge, then grunts. Approval, probably. He moves on. You feel a flicker of something like pride. But there's no time to celebrate. The next board is already being dragged into place. You learn quickly which planks to trust and which ones will fight you. Some curl perfectly. Others need clamping and heat. You scorch your fingers more than once trying to adjust a stubborn edge. One board cracks midway through installation. You have to rip it out and start again. The waste feels like a wound. Timber is precious. As the day wears on, your hearing becomes strange, dulled by the constant thump of hammering, the hiss of steam, the slop of tar. But your hands stay busy. They know the work now. You start sealing without thinking, the way someone might breathe or blink, automatic, learned unconscious. Evening comes with no warning. The sky turns gold. Shadows stretch across the yard. You're still at it, fastening the last board of the day. This one bends just right. You smile, barely. You know tomorrow will bring another dozen. But today, at least, you've earned your place. At supper, you sit near the fire, your hands still sticky with pitch. The stew tastes of root vegetables and brine. It doesn't matter. You're too tired to care. Someone sings a song about a ship lost in a storm, and someone else throws a bone at them. You laugh. It hurts your ribs. Later, lying on your straw mat, you look at your palms in the flickering firelight. They're blackened, blistered, rough as bark. But beneath that, something else, a kind of pride. You're helping build something that will carry lives across oceans. Something that will face wind and wave and hold strong. The ship isn't finished yet. Not even close. But it's starting to look like one. You can see it. The curve of the hull, the promise in its shape. It's as if the wood itself remembers being part of tree, and now dreams of being part of something greater. You close your eyes and dream with it. The hull is whole now. A body, wide and curved, resting on wooden cradles like a beast asleep. But it doesn't live, not yet. A ship without sails is like a skeleton without muscle. It won't move. It won't breathe. It needs wind and will. You wake before dawn. The air is damp with sea salt and spring. Riggers have arrived, not shipwrights, but a different breed. They move quickly, hands always busy, always wrapping, threading, tying. They don't carry axes or mallets. Their tools are smaller, needles thick as your thumb, long-bladed knives, and coils of rope so heavy they must be carried on the back like firewood. They speak in knots. You don't understand them fully, but you listen and you learn. Canvas is hauled from carts and wagons, rough tan and stiff from wax and weatherproofing. It cracks when bent. The sails have been stitched for weeks by women in the far hall, bent over cloth with pricked fingers and sore eyes. Now it's time to fit them. You help hoist the first one, square, broad, and smelling of oil. 4 of you hold it while another climbs a new mast. The mast rises in the heart of the ship like a tree returning to life. You remember the forest where it came from. You remember helping strip it of bark, watching the sap leak like tears. Now it's plain, polished, and hoisted into place. It stands tall, creaking gently in the wind, held by thick hempen stays. You test one of the lines, tight like a bowstring. It hums when plucked. Your job today is simple but endless. Tie, test, retie. There are dozens of knots, each with a name, a history, a purpose. The master rigger walks the deck, checking every hitch, splice, and loop. If it slips under pressure, someone might die. Ropes aren't just lines, they're veins. They run through the ship, pull it, shape it, hold it together when the sea tries to tear it apart. You climb for the first time that morning. The mast is wrapped with pegs and lines, forming a crude ladder. Your hands slip on the wood, still damp with morning dew. Below you, the shipyard spins slowly. Up here, the breeze is constant. It pushes against you like a hand on your chest. You look down. A mistake now would be loud and final. But you keep climbing. At the top, the world changes. The town looks smaller. The sea closer. You can see gulls wheeling far off, their cries thin and distant. You lash the first sail to the yard, fingers stiff with cold and fear. Then you do it again. And again. By noon, your arms ache. Your hands are covered in splinters, burns from a rope, and streaks of black pitch that somehow got everywhere. Still, you keep tying. Lunch is bread and a bit of smoked fish, eaten with your back against the railing. Your fingers twitch as if they're still working. Around you, the riggers joke in low tones. One has no front teeth. Another lost 3 fingers to a snap stay on a ship 2 years ago. They laugh about it, but there's no real joy in the sound. Just survival. Just habit. The sailcloth begins to billow in the wind by mid-afternoon. Not fully. It's not time for that. But it shifts, stretches. The ship creaks. It is waking up. The captain arrives in the afternoon. Not yet in his finery. He wears a wool tunic and smells like horses. But his walk is different. He doesn't look at the ship with pride or awe. He looks with calculation. This will be his charge, his fate. If the ropes fail, if the mast breaks, if the sails tear, it will be his name that's cursed. He asks for a test. The main yard is turned. The sail catches wind and pulls hard. The whole ship groans against its cradles. You feel it move beneath your feet, just a fraction, like an animal shifting in sleep. The captain nods. The master rigger nods back. It's a silent agreement, old as salt. The ship is nearly ready. Before sunset, you're sewing. Not sails, but lines, Dozens of little ropes called reef points that will let the sail be shortened in a storm. The canvas resists the needle. Your thumb bleeds. But you don't stop. There's a quiet rhythm in the work. A piece. Below deck. The hold smells of tar and timber. You help drag coiled ropes into storage. Each one is tagged, not with words, but with colored twine. Blue for the anchor. Red for the mainsail. Yellow for spares. You ask who'll explain it to the crew. They'll learn fast, the rigger says, or they won't last. That night, you stay late. You sit on the edge of the hull, watching the stars. The masts cast long shadows on the shipyard floor. You think about the forest again, about the sound of the first axe, about how much has changed. The ship is no longer just a hull, no longer just beams and nails. It has lungs now, ropes for sinew, sails for skin. It doesn't move yet, but it could. That's the difference. That's the magic. You rest your hand on a coil of line. It's rough, course, but there's power in it. The kind of power that can pull 100 tons of wood across an ocean. The kind that snaps back if you misuse it. In a few days, the figurehead will be carved. The decks will be scrubbed. Provisions will be loaded, and the sea will call. But tonight, you rest in the arms of something ancient, half wood, half wind, and almost alive. When the ship nears completion, the village gathers. Priests bless the hull. Offerings are made. A barrel of beer is tapped. Bread is shared. You smile, though you're tired. The work is nearly done. A launch is near. You feel the change before you see it. The shipyard, once noisy with tools and shouting, has taken on a new rhythm, a quieter one, not silent but reverent. The hammering is lighter now. The rush is gone. The shape is full. The hull stands proud, broad, and firm. Ribs and planks, pitch and pegs, all of it forming something more than the sum of its parts. The ship breathes. It waits. Your hands ache, and so does your back. The salt and tar seem permanent in your skin. But you don't mind. There's pride in pain. The others feel it too. You see it in the way they touch the hull when they walk past. A palm trailing along a plank. A nod. A whisper. You've all given pieces of your life to this vessel. And now it's time to honor it. The ship must be blessed. Word spreads. The village is coming. Children peek over fences. The old man who hasn't left his hearth all winter asks to be carried down. Women gather flowers. Someone brings out the sacred ribbons that haven't seen sunlight in a decade. You find yourself cleaning up your work area, sweeping sawdust, brushing off tools. The ship deserves to be presented properly. The priest arrives in the morning. His robes are faded but clean. His beard is long, white, and smells faintly of wax. He blesses buildings, marriages, fields, but this is different. This is a thing that will carry people over the sea, that will face wind and fury, that might never return. The blessing must be stronger. He walks the length of the ship, muttering Latin. He sprinkles water from a wooden bowl. He stops now and then, touches the hull, and murmurs softer. You recognize some of the words. Protection, fortune, peace. Then he climbs onto a small platform and raises his voice. This ship will know hardship. Wind will strike her. Salt will scour her. Men will sleep in her belly and dream of land. Let the Lord keep her. Let the sea respect her. Let no man's greed or anger steer her wrong. You lower your head. After the blessing, offerings come. Someplace between religion and tradition, the offerings aren't about gold or wealth. They're about thanks. Gratitude to the trees, to the sea, to the sun that dried the planks. A boy places a carved toy boat at the keel's edge. A mother brings a piece of bread and lays it on the prow. You offer a sliver of the first timber you cut, wrapped in a scrap of cloth and tied with your hair. Others do the same. Each gift means something. It's not all somber, though. After the offerings, the beer is tapped. The cooper had been keeping it ready for weeks. A great oak barrel banded in iron, sealed tight. He cracks it open with a mallet and spigot, and the smell of malt and yeast rolls out like smoke. Mugs are filled. Bread is passed. The villagers gather in circles. Laughter rises like music. You sit with your fellows, legs out, leaning against the keel. The ship towers behind you. casting a long shadow. Your mug is rough, carved from horn, and the beer is warm but strong. You drink deep, not fast. You let it sit on your tongue. You earn this taste. Someone starts singing, not loud, not proud, just a tune from the hills, about boats and brothers and tides. You hum along. You know this one. The old shipwright, the master, sits alone for a moment, then slowly gets up. He walks to the prow and runs his hand along it. You wonder what he's thinking. How many ships has he seen come and go? How many blessings? How many launches? He speaks. No ship is ever done, he says, loud enough for the workers to hear. Not while we're still dreaming about it. But she's close. She's close enough. Then he smiles, something rare and shy. Tomorrow we roll her to sea. That sentence sticks in your chest. Tomorrow is the day. The beer keeps flowing. Songs get louder. A dance starts, more bouncing than graceful, but full of life. You join in. Your muscles complain, but you move anyway. You laugh. You forget the months of soreness, the splinters under nails, the burns from pitch, the splashes of rain and sweat. For tonight, it's joy. You glance back at the ship. She looks like she's waiting too, not impatient, just ready. Later, long after dusk, torches are lit. The keel glows orange in their light. A few men lie back and stare at the stars, arguing over which constellation guides sailors best. An older woman tells a story of a ship that vanished but left dreams in its wake. Children fall asleep in laps. Someone spills beer and apologizes to the ship like it was sacred ground. No one laughs at him because he's right. You sit back down, head against the hull. You close your eyes. The wood is warm from the day's sun, and the hum of celebration buzzes around you. You don't dream. You just rest, because tomorrow the ship moves, and everything changes. The launch is slow, dangerous. Ropes groan. The hull tilts. Then movement. Cheers rise. The ship slides into the water. You watch it float, silent and strong. Your months of labor vanish into the current, now carried by tide and time. The sky is pale with the hush of dawn. A low mist clings to the ground. Every breath comes out in clouds. You wake before the rooster calls. Boots already by the door. Shirt still smelling of pitch and smoke from last night's blessing. Today is the day. The yard is not quiet, but no one speaks loudly. The usual shouts are gone. Every man and woman walks differently, measured, respectful. The ship rests on its cradle of logs, raised on scaffolds and wooden braces, as if asleep in the arms of giants. You've seen this moment before, from a distance, but now you are part of it. Now it's your ship. Ropes have been checked and checked again. Pulleys and winches creak under slow testing. The master shipwright inspects each brace with the same care he once gave to the keel. He runs his hand along the support beam. Then he nods. It's time. The crowd gathers, fewer than at the blessing, but every one of them holds their breath. Children are hushed. Dogs are tied back. Even the waves seem to slow. The signal is given. You take your place near the first wedge. It's wedged tight beneath the hull, holding the massive body aloft. Just behind you, other workers are lined up at the other supports, their hammers ready. One strike from each. At once. No second chances. Your heart pounds. The hammer feels heavier than usual in your hand. You grip it, press your lips together, and wait. The master raises his hand. Then he drops it. A dozen hammers fall in unison. A dozen sharp cracks break the morning stillness. The ship groans. It's a sound you've never heard before, a deep, reluctant moan, like something ancient being disturbed. The ship shifts. Not much, just an inch, then two, then stillness. You wait. The foreman calls out for the ropes to be released. Slowly. Pulleys strain. The ship rocks in its cradle. Another creak. Another shift. This one more pronounced. It tilts forward, weight gathering. Men scramble to roll away the now loose braces. Wooden rollers, greased with animal fat, are hammered beneath the hull. You push one in with your boot. Another groan. Another inch. You step back. Then it moves. The motion is slow, Agonizingly slow, but real, the ship begins to slide forward, its entire weight now shifting on the rollers. Each groan is louder than the last. Ropes whip and pull. Winches turn. The hull rocks gently, dangerously. You can't breathe. Everyone is watching. Some bite their knuckles. Others clutch hands. The water lies just ahead, still and waiting. It feels impossibly close, impossibly far. The ship slides farther. Faster now. Momentum builds. Then it hits a snag. One roller binds. The hull shudders. A rope snaps. It whips through the air like a snake, cracking against the dirt. You hear someone shout. The ship tilts slightly to one side. Panic. The foreman yells for stabilizers. Men rush in with wooden beams, jamming them against the lower hull. Another roller is forced into place. The rope is resecured. Sweat pours down your face. Your hands shake, but the ship holds. The pressure is overwhelming. If the tilt increases, she could fall. If a roller cracks, she might break. Months of work could shatter in seconds. The master shipwright raises his hand again. One more push. The men brace. You brace. Shoulders against timber. Feet digging into dirt. You heave, and the ship moves. It's smoother now, as if she wants it, as if she knows where she's going. The creaking lessens. The ropes ease. The hull glides. She picks up speed, not fast, but steady. A great shadow rolling toward the sea. You step back, heart in your throat. Then she touches water. First the keel kisses a tide. Foam curls around it. Then the sides dip. The hull settles into the water's embrace, like a swan returning home. The ship rocks once, gently, and then floats. Silence. No one speaks. No one moves. You all just watch. There she is, alive. The ship floats, tethered lightly by lines to the dock. Her hull, once resting on logs and ropes, is now held by water and salt and tide. She rises and falls ever so slightly, her body breathing with the ocean. You let out the breath you didn't know you'd been holding. Then a cheer. It starts with one voice. Then another, and another. Soon the yard explodes with sound. Shouts, laughter, tears, hats tossed into the air. Even the master smiles, wide, unguarded, like a father seeing his child walk for the first time. You wipe your face. It's sweat or something else. People slap each other on the back. Someone pours the last of the beer. A young girl dances on the dock, pointing at the ship and clapping. You laugh. You don't remember the last time you laughed like this. The ship is named aloud. Her name rolls across the water, echoing against stone and wood. Someone rings a bell. A gull cries overhead, and still she floats. You walk closer to the dock. The water laps at the pilings. You reach out, almost touch her. The wood is dark now, wet and glistening. She smells of tar, salt, and morning. You remember the first day, the forest, the tree you helped cut, the axe in your hand, the cold, the fear, and now this, a full ship, real, whole, and she's not yours anymore. That's the strange part. Before the sails ever caught wind, before it would ever touch water, there were hands. Calloused, blistered, bleeding. Deep in the forest and by the shorelines, ancient shipbuilders toiled, day after day, month after month. Not for glory, but for survival. No blueprints, no machines, just memory, muscle, and fire. Every beam was carved by instinct, every rib bent by steam. And if they made a mistake, men would die at sea. Tonight, we go back to that world. The world of pitch, rope, and rising masts, where ships were born not in silence, but in the deafening song of axes and hammers. This is a grueling life of ancient shipbuilders, and it's time to remember the men who built the voyage. You made her piece by piece. You bled for her. You lost sleep, cracked your knuckles, cursed the weather, and now she belongs to the sea. Others will sail her. Others will name her deck home. She will face storms and skies you'll never see. She may sink. She may triumph. She may vanish. But she is hers now. Hers in the oceans. You turn away slowly. There's cleanup to be done, tools to collect, a new keel to measure. The shipwright's work never really ends. But for now, you allow yourself one more look. There she floats, tall and proud, a ghost of effort made solid. And you smile, because she floats. And that is everything. The ship sails away, crewed by others. Your hands are idle again, but not for long. The forest waits. New trees whisper in the wind. Somewhere out there, another voyage needs to be built, and you will build it. The ship is gone. You stood on the dock and watched until her sails vanished into the horizon, a pale triangle against the blue. Now there's nothing but open sea and a long stretch of silence. Her wake has already faded. Her shadow lingers in your mind. She floats, but no longer here. You walk back through the village. The shipyard is quiet. Tools are stacked. The cauldrons are empty. The fire pits are cold. Tar hardens in forgotten buckets. A few apprentices remain, cleaning, stacking ropes, muttering to themselves. But the hum is gone. You sit on a stump near the edge of the yard, hands on your knees. For the first time in months, there is nothing urgent to do. No planks to fit, no beams to test, no smoke rising from the steaming pit. You should rest, but your hands twitch. You look down at them. Cracked knuckles, nails blackened from pitch, the skin along your palms still tough and ridged from months of shaping timber. These are not idle hands. They are meant to build. The stillness feels foreign, but it won't last. The master shipwright nods to you from a distance. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His look says what you already know. It's time. Not for another launch. Not yet. It's time to go back. Back to the beginning. The forest. You pack lightly. A hatchet, a rope, a whetstone, and your boots. A small loaf of bread in a cloth. Some dried fish. You carry a wooden wedge in your pocket, not for use, but for memory. A piece of the last ship to remind you what's possible. The path to the forest is familiar. Stones underfoot, grass pressing against your legs, birds flitting above. The sun is higher now, warming your shoulders as you walk. Wind passes through the tall trees, stirring the leaves like whispers. You feel it before you see it. The forest has its own breath, its own rhythm. You step beneath the first canopy of green and the world changes. The light dims. The air cools. Every step lands on soft earth and last season's leaves. Here, the world is older. You walk between giants. Trees have stood longer than you've been alive. Some bend with the wind. Others reach straight up, stubborn and silent. You touch their bark as you pass, feeling their strength, their stories locked inside rings of wood. You listen. Not all trees are worthy. Some are too thin, too brittle, too young. Others are curved wrong, or split near the base, or hollow from storms past. You walk slowly, eyes on the trunks, ears tuned for birds and breaking branches. Then you find one. She's tall, straight, thick. Her bark is dark and furrowed, her crown wide above. You walk a circle around her, touching the trunk, checking the roots. No rot, no cracks, a solid heart. You rest your hand against her and close your eyes. You thank her, not aloud, not with words, just a still moment, a recognition. Cutting a tree is not just work, it is permission. You return with your crew the next day. The apprentices carry axes, wedges, and saws. You lead them in silence. They chatter at first, but the closer they get to the tree, the quieter they become. The forest does that. It asks for respect. You show them the tree. They nod. Each man takes his place. Axes are checked. Edges honed. You show them where to strike. Not too high. Not too deep. Let the tree lean with you, not against. Then the first blow. It rings out like a bell in the forest stillness. Sharp. Clean. You strike again. And again. The others follow. With chips fly. Bark peels. The scent of fresh-cut timber rises. Hours pass. Sweat soaks your shirt. The sun moves through the branches. The notch deepens. You listen to the wood's complaints. Its creaks and groans. Then the final wedge. You tap it gently. One more hit. Then The tree begins to fall. It leans first, slowly, then faster. Branches tremble. Birds scatter. The trunk crashes down, shaking the earth beneath your feet. A thunderous end. A sacred one. You stand in silence as the dust settles. She's down, but her journey is just beginning. You mark the log for hauling. It will take days to drag her out. Oxen will pull. Ropes will strain. The men will curse. But she will reach the yard, and from her bones a ship will rise. Again, the apprentices ask why this tree, why this spot, why now? You tell them stories, not lessons, not commands. You tell them about your first tree, your first ship, the way the keel must whisper back when touched, the way pitch smells different in the summer. They listen. They'll remember. Back at the village, the shipyard waits. It looks empty now, but you see what's coming. The timber will be cut, beams shaped, steam pits lit again, fire will return. The master will walk the lines and nod. Another ship, another dream. You wash your hands in the basin outside the workshop. The water runs dark with sap and earth. You scrub under your nails. The scars remain. In the distance, the children play near the beach. One of them shouts, pointing out to sea. You squint. A shape moves against the sky. A sail. Far away. Your ship. She returns. Or passes. Or sails towards something you'll never see. And it doesn't matter. What matters is here. In the saw. The axe. The beam yet to be cut. You wipe your hands. Pick up a chisel. Lay out the next piece of timber. There are no blueprints. Only memory. Only stories. And a forest that always waits. Always whispers. Another voyage is out there. And you will build it.